You are listening to Storymakers, the podcast for women who are ready to step into their true identity, live with meaningful purpose, find belonging and connection, grow in leadership, and walk boldly in faith. Here you can uncover the story that you were created to live because you were made for such a time as this. We've been talking about how situations in our lives lead us to have an interpretation, which I call the paradigm of our beliefs and our thoughts. And then the paradigm that we operate from causes us to experience an emotion that we either want to pursue more of or we want to avoid. So we take action or we have inaction. And our action path leads to a result that we create because of our action or inaction. But over time, what happens is all of those results we create, they culminate in what I call the legacy. And so what I've been teaching you is about the Pearl practice. It's this tool that I use that has transformed my way of thinking, helped me to actually get in alignment with the truth, renew my mind. It's an actual framework for how to do that. And I can use it all day, every day, in every situation. It's what I train my coaches to do. It's what I use in my coaching, in my family, in my ministry. It is so powerful when you begin to see that you are personally responsible for the legacy you create, and then to be empowered with the truth and a tool that helps you know how to actually create that legacy with intention. So if you've ever had a thought like, how do other people experience me and my life, and what story is my life telling right now, and what's it going to tell later, this is the episode I want you to hear. And if you've started here, I want you to go back to the last 4 episodes for sure and listen to me teach you about the paradigm, emotion, action, and results in your life. They all come down to this point. And we're not talking about the story that you hope to tell someday, but the one that your actual choices, your current daily patterns, and your presence in life are building day by day and moment by moment. So we're jumping into the final path inside of the Pearl practice, and that's L for legacy. This isn't about perfection. It's not about pressure. It's actually about your perspective and your power. Because your life is always leaving an imprint. And the question is, are you actually choosing what kind of imprint it will create? Or are you living by default and one day you're just going to turn around and go, oh, look what happened, and blame the world, blame other people, blame events, blame circumstances for the kind of imprint that you made instead of taking personal responsibility, which actually empowers you to change it. Proverbs 13:22 says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Like, we have to think about the future, and that's not just about our grandchildren and their grandchildren, even though it is about them. I'm talking about how we impact the world around us, the spheres of influence that God has set us in today. Proverbs 20, verse 7 says that the righteous lead blameless lives, and blessed are their children after them. We're running a really long race here. We are not perfectly righteous at any given moment within our soul, but we as believers have been redeemed in our spirit, man. Like, our spirit is alive because of our belief in Jesus Christ, right? So our soul is consistently in this restorative process for the rest of our lives. Like, that's the race that we're running. We're going from grace to grace. We're working out our salvation. And it means that we're moving towards becoming righteous in Jesus, not by our works, but not separate from them either. Salvation is a gift, and it's because of the righteousness of Christ that we're able to pursue living and leading a blameless life. That impacts all of the people around us. And blessed are our children and their children. So legacy in Scripture is really deeply, very personal, and it's not about wealth or success, which I think a lot of people, we don't talk about legacy because we think that it's like legacy giving. When I die, this charity gets, 40% of my money. It's actually about faith and wisdom and character and impact. And it's about what remains when you are no longer in the room. What are people feeling and thinking and believing and doing? And eventually, it's what remains when you're no longer on this earth in a physical body. And God is not only interested in what you're doing today, He's interested in who you're becoming over time. And that's actually the story that you're cultivating throughout your life, whether you're doing it by default or you're being intentional about it. So in the pro practice, legacy is the culmination of all of the consistent results that you create from the actions that you take based on what you feel and think and believe. So it's what forms when your thoughts and emotions, actions and outcomes are repeated and repeated until they actually become kind of like the tone of your life story. Because results are kind of those tangible outcomes of your action, but the legacy is often intangible. So if the result is somebody, your friendship is not as close because of something that happened, because of something that you said. So your friendship is starts disconnecting, starts not being so fun, so close over time, because that result is that tangible result is I don't go to her house anymore, or we don't meet on Thursday for Bible study before work anymore. The legacy is often intangible, where it's more like that feeds and bleeds into not just your relationship with that one person because you weren't honest and you didn't deal with what was happening between the two of you, but it might feed into other relationships and friendships you have. If you carry the belief and the paradigm that you cultivate through that one situation, it can become, well, now I don't feel safe with friends and I tend to withdraw or self-protect. And that intangible result is because you're doing that again and again and again. It becomes a pattern. It becomes a habit. It becomes this pattern that leads to a legacy that you might not be able to really see if you're not being intentional about it. So the results are the outcomes of your actions, and legacy is kind of that the culmination of all those results that is like the impact of your life. So I think of the results like the books on the shelf and the legacy as the library in its entirety. So legacy is like your spiritual fingerprint in the long run. It's the atmosphere you carry, the residue of your presence in the room, and it shows up in the way people feel after talking to you, the peace or the absence of it that you leave in the room. It's the way your children think about you, the way your friends describe you when you're not around. And more specifically for the pro practice, it's the way others experience you and your response to any given situation. So ultimately, legacy is what your story produces in and for the world around you. So you think of results as that tangible outcome of the action that you deal with, and the legacy is how those results collect to affect not only you, but other people. So legacy is always being written, but the question isn't if you're creating one, it's whether the one that you're creating is the one you want to create. And most people live in default mode. They make decisions out of fear, out of habit, out of emotional reaction that they're not paying attention to and centered on truth. And then they wonder why their life doesn't reflect the things that they say matters most to them. So you, as a story maker, you are not just a reactor, you are a creator. You are made in the image of a creative, intentional, and very legacy building God. And when you wake up to that truth, you stop settling for whatever story life has handed you, and you start co-writing this story with God. That's why the Pearl practice exists in the first place. We need a way to shift from default to intention, and the Pearl practice is just this simple framework anybody can do at any time about any situation. So I want you to pause and think, what do you want your life to mean? What kind of legacy do you want? And not just for your sake, but for the people who are watching you, your kids and spouse and coworkers, your neighborhood, your community, the strangers at the coffee shop and the farmer's market and the grocery store, and the people who follow you online, and maybe even like the friend or the person at church who's going through something really hard and wondering, does anybody actually live out what they say they believe? They're experiencing you somehow. And legacy is built in the small, faithful moments, like the day by day, not just the big, dramatic, mountaintop moments. It doesn't require you to have a platform. It doesn't require you to be perfect. It just requires your presence and that presence of mind to pay attention to what the outcomes really are and the story that's being written as those outcomes are woven together. So how are people experiencing you and your story? Is that really what you want? Is your life story presenting a thread of joy or pain? Does it tell a narrative of hope and truth and healing, or one of powerlessness, shame, fear, depression, addiction? And if you're wondering like how to actually build a better legacy, I don't want you to overcomplicate it or think that you need a 10-year plan, need to go get your will done. You actually just need clarity in this very moment. So here's how we switch this. When we go through the Pearl practice, we look at the facts and we just look at them as neutral, right? Neutral facts. The sun is shining. Everybody that is around me would be able to say, the sun is shining. We're not going to add descriptions to it. We're not going to say it's shining more than yesterday. That's my opinion, right? But it is definitely shining. There are no clouds in the sky. The flowers are on the crepe myrtles in my front yard. They are beginning to bloom, right? That's a fact. The color of them, that is a fact. Everybody that is where I am right now would agree with me because those are facts. And then you think about your paradigm. What is your actual interpretation in the form of a thought about the fact? What kind of emotion rises up for you when you think that? What action does that emotion lead you to take? What kind of tangible results do your actions produce? And over time, if you keep getting those same results, what kind of legacy do they culminate in, right? That is what we call the old pearl. And we look at that and we go, in hard situations, something that is disturbing to you and your soul and your body, and we actually look at it and we narrow down wherever you start in the old pearl, you just start. The first thing I know I did was I slammed a door. Okay, that's it's action. What kind of emotion was I feeling that caused me to slam the door? And then what thought that I had that caused me to feel that way? And you can go anywhere. What kind of results do I get when I slam the door? And if I keep slamming the door, keep getting those results, then what kind of legacy do I create, let's say in my household, right? Everybody's scared of me. So that's your old pearl. And then you create a new pearl, and that's simply reverse engineering the pearl framework, where we start with the L, the legacy we want to create. And we go from default to intentional living. So I'm going to give you an example of the way that I use the new pearl, and I'm going to share the old one and the new one. It's something I've recently worked through. I am pearling things all of the time because it's my way of being really intentional about the results I get in my life. It's about taking personal responsibility, which I super believe in. This podcast is about self-leadership, knowing my identity so I can walk in my purpose and know and fit where I belong, where my identity and purpose will thrive, and walk in faith and lead myself and others well. Like, that's the point of why we're here in the Storymakers Show. And I believe that when we live from a place of blaming or others or events or circumstances, then we live very powerlessly. But if we accept what is ours to carry and recognize what's not ours to carry, then we can shift our paradigm. And through this Pearl framework, I'll show you how shifting your paradigm creates the kind of legacy you actually want to live from. And intentional living allows us to shift the entire narrative and live from a place of truth and freedom instead of lies and fear. So here's my example. In the old Pearl, the fact was a friend did not respond to my text for a week. Fact. I'm not describing my friend. I'm not judging the length of time. I'm actually being very specific. A friend did not respond to my text for a week. This is just a fact. It's not, my thoughts are not the facts. So my paradigm, the way that I interpreted in this one moment, I don't do this every time, but in this moment, I had to pearl it because I found that I was experiencing something. I knew what my emotion was in this pearl before I understood the other things. I had to start in the old pearl. I started with the emotion, the thing I was most aware of. But in the new pearl, you specifically start with the L and you reverse engineer it. L, then the R, the A, the E, and the P. Okay? In the old pearl, I started with knowing that I was frustrated and hurt. And then I was like, okay, what are the facts of the situation? Like, let's define them and get clarity. Then I realized my paradigm was, my interpretation of those facts was that I don't matter as much to her as she does to me. And that kind of led to this deeper belief of, I'm really just sick of having relationships that are not mutual, where the other person doesn't value communication or time with me as much as I value it, right? That was my deeper paradigm. It was a belief system that was empowering this thought and interpretation to the facts. So it led to emotions of like, I feel frustrated because it feels like this can happen with people, and I feel hurt. So the action I took is I withdrew from her and I stopped reaching out. I didn't text back because I was experiencing this emotion. I don't want to feel more of that emotion, so I don't take action that causes more emotion that I want to avoid. That's human nature. The result, the tangible result, was basically just disconnection, right? I'm disconnected from this friend. Over time, if I stay withdrawn and I don't reach out, I'm not responding, it's going to create so much more disconnection that I'm going to have that legacy of a loss of this friendship. So let's just go through this quickly. The fact was, a friend did not respond to my text for a week. My interpretation of that is, I don't matter as much to her as she does to me. The deeper interpretation, the belief system and narrative that was kind of supporting this thought was, I'm sick of having relationships that are not mutual. That thought was in my mind, led my brain to interpret it that like, and create an emotion of feeling frustrated and hurt. So I feel that physically. The frustration, I tend to feel that very like in my, let's say my shoulders and my neck. The hurt, I feel kind of like in my chest and my gut. So I don't want to feel that, right? So I'm not going to reach out again. And in that human nature operating from my soul, I'm like, well, I don't want more of that. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to be not valued, not whatever. So I'm not going to reach out again. So I withdrew and I stopped reaching out. And then the result of that is disconnection, at least in that moment. If I keep getting that result, I'm going to have a loss of the friendship. So the new pearl is the facts are the same. But I'm starting with like intentional awareness of what I want the intangible legacy to be is I care about her and I want our friendship to last and to be healthy. If I want that, what kind of results do I need to tangibly be getting every day or like in the relationship with her? I would say I need to be getting the results of connection and honesty. What do I have to do? Me personally, none of this has to do with what anybody else does. This is all within me. So I have to take action. I have to go reach out. I have to check in with her. I have to be that bridge, build the bridge, walk the bridge. What kind of emotion, I had to think about this, like what kind of emotion would I need to be feeling that would make me want to reach out and check in with her? I would say I need to be compassionate and optimistic instead of like, I can't be feeling angry. I can't be feeling rejected. Those things don't make me want to reach out and check in. So what kind of emotion does make me want to reach out and check in? If I feel compassion for other people instead of pity for myself, if I feel optimistic that it's going to be okay, there's a reason for this, instead of feeling pessimistic, like, of course she did. She always does that. This is how people treat me. Then I'm probably going to take the action of reaching out and checking in because compassion and optimism make me want to show up. So what do I need to be thinking? How do I need to interpret these facts so that I can produce the emotion intentionally of compassion and optimism? If I think to myself, she's probably just busy. Maybe she missed the text. I want to give her grace. It's not always about me. Most commonly, it's about what she's facing or other people are dealing with, and it's not about me. It's about them. So that makes me go, wow, what if she is going through something? What if she's super busy? What if she's sick? What if she's overwhelmed and just doesn't know right now, how do I go through all those text messages? I don't want to respond to people because I don't know how to be truthful about what I'm dealing with and facing right now in my life, but I also don't want to dump on them. I don't want to be a trauma dumper. So if I think that makes me feel compassion and optimism that it's not about me, it's not personal, and it makes me want to reach out and check in with her. And here's where we go to that deeper paradigm, and we create and cultivate and nourish a belief system. Even if she doesn't want to stay friends with me, God is my friend. I have other friends. My husband's a friend. I have great friends. God is with me, and God will provide the right friend for me if she is not in my life. So if I operate from that belief system, it will influence the paradigm that I operate from, the way I interpret situations like this. You can do this anytime you want. This is literally what we do in life coaching. It's what I train my coaches in the Greenhouse Life Coaching training and certification course in my business. And I have seen it transform not just minds and heal hearts, but transform literally lives and relationships and businesses and ministries and my clients and around me. So I want you to think about this. I want you to write out what is the legacy you want to live out. Like, what kind of woman do you want to be remembered as? And evaluate your actual current trajectory towards that. Are your repeated results moving you toward that vision or away from it? And then trace it backwards. Like, what actions are you consistently taking? What emotions drive those actions? What thoughts and beliefs are supporting them? And then start leaning into living your legacy now. It's not really just about arriving at that point. It's about the alignment, and every small step you take right now is counting towards that place. So ask yourself, if I keep living the way I am now, what will my legacy be? and then pause and pray and invite God into it and ask him, what story are you writing through me, Lord? And what do you want the next chapter to say? Then pick a simple, repeatable action this week that actually reflects the legacy you want to leave, and let it become kind of your part of your prayer time and your rhythm and your flow in life, and watch how it builds over time when you implement it. So I know it's kind of a lot in this, but I have wanted in this beginning of the Storymakers show, I wanted to help you see the framework of the Pearl practice, because it really feeds and supports your identity, your purpose, your belonging, your faith, and your leadership. And it is such a powerful tool. And I know that it can help shift things for you, because I want you to know what's possible for you in your life. I want you to start taking responsibility and feel empowered to become somebody who is courageous and taking action that leads to intentional result creation. God has a lot to do in your life. He wants to do things in you and through you, and he wants to impact the people around you. And I want to help support you, promote you in that. I want to equip you in it. I want to give you resources and tools. I want you to hear from other women who are doing things in their lives so you can see, like, what is really possible? How did they do it? How did they overcome things? And I want you to have in your daily life ways that you can be actively pursuing God and his story, and picking the pencil up and saying, like, I'm going to be part of writing this narrative. I'm not going to live by default. I'm not going to blame the rest of the world, blame my parents, blame childhood events, blame trauma, blame the car wreck. I'm going to say, today, I choose who I will be, regardless of those things. And I'm going to take massive action to become the person who lives into this narrative that I want to create, because I want to be somebody who is a creator, not a victim, and not just a survivor, but somebody who can actually implement the tools and the faith I profess, the hope I carry of Jesus in me, and I want to do something with it. I want you to become a story maker at your core, and not a survivor of everybody else's story. You've got this. I am here for you and love you. I'm praying for you. I want to encourage you that there is hope, that you are a very powerful person, especially with the truth of who Jesus Christ is and the free gift of salvation that you've been offered, that's available to everyone. The choice to give your life to the Lord and write your story with him is, wow. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I don't think there's anything better. I just don't. And a close third is maybe like ice cream, and definitely coffee. All right. So I'm going to wrap this up before I go on too many tangents. Obviously, I need to go. I'm hungry. We're going down this road, and we have so much ground to cover in the coming episodes. And I'm really excited to get to know you, to work with you, to empower you, and to resource you. I want to be a support to your daily life. And I'm excited for the women who are coming on the show. I've had some great conversations with women that you're going to start hearing interviews and conversations with, and I've got more to come that I'm really happy about the conversations that are on my calendar right now with these incredible women who are taking the narrative of their life and shifting their paradigm, changing what they do to become people who are partnering with God and bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth the way that they uniquely are designed to do. And I want it to be something that encourages you that all things are possible, everything is figure-outable, and I know that it takes a village. So here we are, Storymakers Village. Most of the time, people don't tell us where the village is. They just tell us we need one. And I'm telling you, I want this to be your village. So talk to you next week, and I pray that you have a really fantastic day. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the show so you don't miss any new episodes. And to learn more about me, my work, and how we can connect, visit sterlingandstonementoring.com or check the show notes. And until next time, remember, all things are possible and figure-outable.